Okay, so good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Fireside Chat with Laura Moussa. The title of our chat is The Strategic Value of Customer Success. So as a co-founder of a therapeutic company here based in Athens, and from a scientific perspective, when we think of customer success, I would say we're going to be focusing on how we forge relationships with our customers in order to achieve the desired outcome, whether this is for a service that we're providing or product. So there's many stakeholders. Could be healthcare providers, it could be patients, it could be partner organizations like other pharma companies and biotechs. So I'd like to start by giving an introduction of Laura. So Laura started her journey in San Francisco. She started teaching English for about 3 years, and then she became a counselor for students. So this is actually sort of her first experience in customer success. So then she joined an educational startup. It became an app, so it was the #1 on the App Store. It was a very successful venture there because basically they grew in 4 years from a very small team. She was the first manager of customer success. They grew to 100 people in 4 years. She then joined another startup from within the startup that the co-founder founded. This was a company. It was a business platform for texting. It was called Textile. So here, again, she was the first customer service manager. They, again, wanted a fast exit here, so there were a lot of pain points, a lot of challenges. Again, she was with them for 4 years and stayed until it was acquired. So then she took the very bold, decision to move back to her home country here in Greece, where she then joined a company called Velti, which was focused on marketing. And there, the fit was a little bit misaligned because, it was a different dynamics, a different, pace here in Greece. And so then she decided to join Guidepoint, where she is now as head of client services. Sorry. So Laura, it's great to have you here with us. So I wanted to start, with some of your, personal, real-world examples, because you've experienced all the different growth stages of a startup. So maybe you could give us some of those examples, what challenges you face, and how we can apply this to biotech.
Yes, certainly. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here, and thanks for having me. It's a real honor. In the panel earlier, there was a lot of conversation around, the science behind the business. And obviously it all starts from the science, and it all starts from a gap and a need that's out there. And a lot of vision, and especially in this crowd, there's so much vision for, groundbreaking evolution solutions in humanity. So it's extremely impactful. And then, once you identify that, and I think Faye earlier mentioned about, the technology and finding the technology but not sticking to it, those are very relevant in what I think you and I will be discussing today, because, finding the need and finding the tools is the first step, and then moving to bringing this out to the market and finding the way to make your idea profitable and make your idea really reach the people, the audience that you initially thought of when you started. I think that's what our discussion around customer success is going to be about today. It's how you kind of break. You get out of the lab, you get out of the group that you're discussing an idea, and making this impact actual and realized. So speaking about the background and my background and how it links to early stage companies, I understand a lot of people here are in that stage where they have an idea, you have an idea, you've started possibly a company. My first company, a startup that I joined, as you said, was Remind. And at Remind, it was back in 2016, and it was the time where startups were booming in San Francisco. Silicon Valley had just moved to the city in San Francisco. And it was an amazing solution that had already found a big crowd. So it was a need. The product was out there. The only problem was that it was a free product. So we were giving out a product for free. We're not making anything back. And obviously, our board of investors kind of raised a red flag and said, this is it. No more money for games for you now. You just have to go out there and make it real and produce some revenue back. So the challenge there was convincing our existing users to pay for the product that they have had access for free. And what was quite interesting there was realizing that while a product can be quite useful and have a very clear market fit, asking people to pay for this product is a whole different story. So it's reselling the same solution that people had signed up for. That's, I think, when I also learned that a go-to-market strategy is equally important as the solution that we're providing. Finding the way to sell the product, even though people need it and it's evident, right, was a big challenge. It wasn't easy. It was like starting from scratch. And it was convincing people that what they paid for free now what they had for free now they had to pay for. And that is a process that starts by doing the user research, talking to your users, talking to the early adopters, understanding what are the reasons that they need the product that would actually make them also pay for it. And interestingly enough, those were different. The needs were different when it comes to paying for a product. Reaching out to the main stakeholders, finding the main stakeholders who make the decision for buying a product and paying for it was kind of the first thing that we had to figure out. And then obviously the pricing model was tricky. There was competition out there, so we needed to figure out, what are the packages that are worth that would be appealing to our clients, and what those would include, and what sort of level of support would our clients need. And I think in a lot of companies that are early stage, this is very relatable because it is important to understand who decides, who are your first partners. What is that they're looking out of your product? It could be part of it, it could be all of it, it could be something that's missing, and you're 80% there. Then
could I just quickly add something?
Yeah.
So that there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn here in biotech because, as scientists, we're usually scientific co-founders, you're starting with just the science. You don't have a product in mind ever. And so, that whole process of actually having to think in that way that you need a product, something that you can actually sell, that's a huge challenge for us to even, change that mindset.
Yes. And I understand there's probably not so much, or is there a lot of competition out there?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of
there
competition.
Is okay.
Yeah.
Then okay, it's always the case, I think. So at the other startup that I worked at, TextLine, that kind of intention to become profitable and make it a profitable idea was very clear from the beginning. And I think that is because the leadership there, the founders, they were serial entrepreneurs. They knew that, you can have an idea and that idea might have a lot of essence and a lot of need out there. But if that doesn't turn into something that can bring revenue back, then it won't last. It's not just the revenue, it's not just making money out of your idea, but it's also the long-lasting effect. Obviously, when you have an idea and you have a solution, you want it to last. You don't want it to be something that will happen for a little bit of time and then it will fade away. So at that stage that I consider more seasoned and more mature, we knew that the objective is to find the best solution so that it can produce revenue, so that it can be a successful company, regardless of what the case was. For us, it was a successful exit. But because there's so much competition out there, it takes a lot of effort and time to understand, to talk to your clients, or the early clients, the early adopters, and understand, what is that they're really looking for. We found, for instance, that in the beginning, we had maybe better pricing, so we were more appealing to our clients, and we had a good solution. And we knew that keeping things simple was important. Buying a simple product or an easy experience is very important. And I understand that in biotech, solutions are much more complex and much more sophisticated. But back to what I was saying earlier is, yes, I was talking about kind of the connection with your clients, with your customers. So as customer success managers, and that's what I was hired to do, I had to build the customer success team. The first thing that I did was talk to our early adopters, to our first clients, understand exactly what does their day-to-day look like, and figure out how our product can plug in to their workflows, how our product can provide the solutions that they're looking for, and understanding what their life is about at work, what their product or what their solution, their company is doing, was key, so that we can go and plug in our solution. By building that relationship with clients, you are able to better kind of understand what solution is your product providing, and do they need it that way, or is there a tweak that needs to happen there? In that company, we reached to a point where, obviously there was a lot of competition, and our clients were taking us to the direction of, let's say, an omni-channel, which is that was a communication tool, and it was the time where companies and products were communicating with clients through a lot of different means, just like they're doing now, social media, calls, messages, emails, text messages, all of that. So there was a lot of competition that was taking us to an omni-channel, like a channel that can have all communications in one. But then we found, and that was the feedback that my team, customer success, was taking back to our product team. However, our product team was doing research on the market and found that it was healthcare and life science, companies that had a really good use for a product, because that's how they were communicating with their clients, but they needed encryption. So that was kind of a pivoting moment for us, because while our existing clients were taking us to direction A, let's say, we found that our research and our capabilities to evolve were taking us to a different direction. That was encryption. That seemed easier for us. That seemed like it's our niche, and it seemed like it can actually get us closer and faster to our initial goal. And by the way, I'm not sure if it's clear for everyone what customer success is and does.
We could delve into that for a little bit.
Yes, just very briefly to make sure everyone follows. So customer success is a function that's relatively new. It's been around for about 15 years, started from Salesforce in San Francisco, and it's kind of the next. It's the evolution, let's say, of an account manager, a sales manager, or support. It's a proactive approach to managing client relationships. So it comes in after sales, after you have your first client, even or any client. Customer success comes in, owns the relationship with a client, and is the liaison between your product and your clients. And I think the example that I just provided is a very good one, because we took back the feedback from the client to our product team, and then product heard that and try to figure out which is the best direction for us to go.
And I think this sort of echoes with what Faye said early in the previous session about not falling in love with your technology. It's really hard to do, but again, you have to sort of listen to what's out there, what the market is asking for. So for an early stage biotech startup, do you think, from day one, that you need to sort of engage with your clients? So usually this is going to be a pharma company or another biotech company to sort of forge a collaboration, see what they want in their product, whether it's going to be a medical device or a new therapeutic.
Yeah. I think for biotech, thinking that products are very complex, they could be complex technology, sophisticated solutions, a long implementation period that requires a lot of probably data exchange or access to data from another company. I think, definitely customer success is a function that fits in. I guess the question was when is a good timing for customer success to jump in. So, if we think about it, early stage startup, there's the founders, it's mostly product focused. So when you reach that point, when you realize that you have plenty of clients that keep you busy and your product is evolving, it's growing, and there's no time to keep your clients happy or to deep dive into their needs, and start thinking about the business aspect of the product, that's when it's good to start thinking that it's time to bring someone in who can own the relationship with a client. And it's a lot of different aspects. To make it a little more specific, a customer success manager in a biotech setting is someone who needs to be a little more sophisticated, deeply in the research and in science to understand the main kind of nuances of the science that the product is applied for, and someone who can also build relationships. So it's not easy. I have to admit, it doesn't sound easy to find someone who's very technical, very well versed in the science world, and at the same time to be able to build a relationship with a client, to do a little bit of sales, because you need to pitch every single aspect of the product, of the solution that you're providing. You need to also be able to provide some technical support on a superficial level. It doesn't have to be super deep, and understand how business works, because a good customer success manager should have the company's agenda, what is it we're trying to achieve, and what's the ultimate goal, business goal, and then at the same time be the voice of the client. So being really open, being able to really understand the challenges that the client is going through and the solutions that they're looking for is key, so that you can take that information back to your product. It kind of evolved together. So the idea of having a perfect product that works perfectly, which is ideal, and it doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist. Yeah. Also handle all of the times that a product breaks, like the glitches, the experimentation that product is going through. Things are never perfect, especially in the beginning, and you need to maintain those early adopters so that you can continue testing and continue growing. And you reach that level where you know that now it's a beta phase, and it's a solid beta phase, and then maybe moving on, maybe we have to part ways with our early adopters, but that's a later stage. In the beginning, I think that's the biggest value that a customer success manager brings.
Okay, great, thank you. So, how do you advise us to leverage customer feedback in order to improve the product? So, we have these relationships. We're starting them early on in the startup. Getting this information from them, which is vital for the product evolution, but how do you actually implement that practically?
Yes, there are a lot of different ways, and it depends on the stage that we're at. But I want to start by saying that usually people who conceptualize the solution, it always starts by a need and a gap they identified, right? And it's hard not to be stuck in your vision, in your initial vision. And it's hard to, right? It's hard to admit that what I initially thought is 50% of what is actually needed out there, or it might not be sustainable financially. So I have to, cut through and kind of get to my financial goals faster. But going back to the product question, and how do we can leverage product feedback. So it is very important to have like open mind, open ears, and I don't know if you're familiar with user research, but the idea is that you show someone your product and you let them just go through it, and have them speak out loud and say what they're thinking while they're going through it. And that is step number one in order to leverage leverage feedback from your clients. Step two, I think it's a mindset, and it's the idea of your initial intention, which was to help humanity, help a specific group of people, or a specific provide solutions to something very to a specific audience, whether that's people or animals or nature. So if you keep that in mind always, and that's your main compass, then I think you will be open to getting the feedback, really hearing it, and trying to kind of bridge your initial idea with what you're hearing from people who are initially interested in your product, but they want to apply a few tweaks, or it's slightly different to that. So that's the one part, the listening part, and then the other part is also sticking true to your values, to your initial values and your initial intention, because there will be a lot of clients who will, or maybe initially you don't have the right clients, let's say, to what you're trying to build. So that means that you need to keep on pushing to find the perfect fit or the better fit to your clientele, so that you can get closer to your initial idea. I think it just needs a lot of experimentation. Then when it comes to the practical side of it, there are several tools where customer success can share feedback back to teams, and a good customer success manager treats internal teams, treats product teams as their customer. So I think usually it comes from the customer success teams that identify the tools and the ways to effectively communicate that feedback back and challenge the product teams, when needed, and bring the financial aspect to the product teams as a reminder that, this is what our clients are willing to pay for, and are you sure you don't want to give it a try? Technically, that's the simplest way to explain it.
Yeah, so that's actually a really key lesson for us, I think, is just sort of that reiteration within the company, within the team. So sort of getting that feedback from the scientists, in terms of business development and how key that those relationships are. So I think we're now talking more about relationships rather than product. And then, so how do you implement customer success when the company is constantly evolving? Like it seems kind of, that sounds exhausting to me.
That's exactly what it is. Not so much on the exhausting part, but more on the evolution. And someone on the panel earlier touched on how, we grow and how we don't, it's part of growth, technically, to embrace the different paths that even product will take you. It's like starting with an initial idea, but being open to all the other things that will come along the way, all the other ideas that will come to your product team, to the founders, from the clients, from someone else on the team, or from what's happening out there. Like, life and obviously business is a never-changing thing. It keeps evolving, it keeps changing. So if we're stuck in our own ways and in our own initial product and initial intention, it's very likely that we're gonna kind of fall behind of evolution and what's happening out there. And I believe that most of all of the successful people that I've met, they know that there's growth comes with challenge. Change is challenging, and when you're challenged in what you're building, I think it's a good sign that you're evolving and you're putting yourself out there to embrace the challenges and whatever is new that you had not planned initially for. So I think it's a good sign when you're challenged.
Yeah, that's really nice, sort of as a general takeaway. So yeah, I liked how you said open mind, open ears, and I think that's really important in any relationship, is to listen, right? So I guess for me now, like based on our conversation, I would say that my key takeaway is that you're focusing on these relationships, forging them early, and using that to capitalize on these relationships, to stimulate growth in the company and, eventually revenue, of course, because in biotech we usually have sort of a delayed revenue. So what is your key takeaway? And then maybe if you could sort of apply this to the idiosyncrasies of Greece.
So something I'd like to mention here is, so currently I work at Guidepoint, which is an expert network company, and our revenue stream there is very limited. So it's a very big company, right? And main focus is on revenue for my role right now. But similar to biotech, the pool of clients is extremely limited. It's a niche market. So customer success is key for that sort of companies and that sort of size of market, because what it does is it retains clients and it focuses on growing revenue. So the idea is how we can grow revenue from existing clients. And usually in those cases, in those scenarios, you have a much smaller sales team than your success team. So the model is that, the inflow of new clients is much more limited than the growth in revenue that you get from your existing clients. And it could be, 90% of your revenue and your revenue growth is coming from existing clients and not from new clients. And that's also where product evolution comes, because you need to constantly look for ways to, drive more revenue from existing clients. I would say, going back to your question, that it is very, very important to understand that nurturing existing clients and existing relationships is what actually will drive your revenue and will maintain it and secure it. And then from that revenue, you can grow even more. And something that, we've also touched a little bit on is, kind of how you break down your budget to allocate for a customer success manager, and when it makes sense to bring a customer success manager to your team. And it's when you, of course, have your first clients and your first partnerships, and thinking about a 10 to 20% budget on your annual revenue would make sense to say, okay, now I have the finances that would allow me to continue growing and nurturing relationships with my clients. Now to your the second part of the question around Greece and customer success, it's fairly new, I think. A lot of times I tell people what I do, and it's hard to understand what, of course my parents don't know what customer success is, or my friends, but it's fairly new, but I know it's getting bigger and more popular because it's the need and it's the business needs that's out there. And what I can say for sure is that in Greece we have a lot of talent that has all the soft skills, the social skills that are really, really hard to find. And these are the main elements to help you nurture a relationship. I think we also are very resourceful, very creative in Greece, so finding solutions for clients with the existing product is also key and very valuable as a skill. And definitely where we can get better is the training, the processes. So I think that with the right, operationalization of a company, of workflows and processes, and giving the right tools, I believe that in Greece we have a really good pool of talent that we can utilize.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes left. Maybe we want to engage the audience. Does anyone from the audience have a question for Laura? Yes.
So I really appreciate the talk because as a owner and founder of a early stage biotech company, I've always been a huge believer in the whole customer success principle and the importance of that. The challenge that I've seen, and I'd like to get your feedback on, is finding people like you is really, really difficult. And so we end up, because you have a certain amount of need just for technical support, answering tickets, answering the phone. And in the US, we end up outsourcing that because that's way too expensive just to get a good qualified person to do that job. But then those people are in another country and they don't know anything about customer success. And so how do we find people like you? And then also how do you create internally, because you're feeding product, you're talking to marketing, you're basically making sure this information gets into the hands of the people that need it. So you're collecting data, you're seeing what problems are going on, you're feeding product, you're feeding marketing, you're feeding the business development side, which is crucial because you're sort of getting that firsthand information. But how do you, what's been your experience as far as breaking down the silos internally, and then how do we find people like you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And being in a position to hire people has been a challenge both in Greece and in the US. So what I learned through my experience is that we should just focus on let's say the quality, keep an open mind on who could do this job. It could be someone who seems more introvert. As a more extrovert person, initially I thought that every person I hire needs to be like me. They need to be extroverts, right? Because that's kind of key element to foster a relationship. Then I realized I hired someone who was an introvert, was more technical, much more technical than me, and she was a rock star. She could speak to our clients in a very technical and organized way, and really kind of create that sense of trust to our clients. So it could be someone that has the background in something that's very technical, someone who doesn't have the background, completely out of it, but they have a little bit of customer success or client service experience. Or in Greece, a lot of people have background in tourist jobs, and that is there's a lot of people out there that we've served during summers in Greece, and that definitely tells a lot about your ability to talk to people. So whoever is eager to learn and put themselves out there, whether that has to do with being fully aware that they're not technical and they need to become technical and learn and apply themselves to more technical notions, or someone who realizes that they're not super, easy to form relationships with people and talk to people, but they're open to learning that. all of these, like these two categories would work because there are people who are eager to learn, they're curious, and they want to take a challenge, they have ambition, and their ambition comes to a personal level, but also to seeing everyone around them succeed. It's the company, it's themselves, and it's also the client.
Thank you very much. I think that last question was amazing. It sort of closed this nice conversation on customer success with Laura. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.